Hey everyone, welcome back to Crypto Cash. Thank you so much again for joining me here. Hope you're having a great day. I'm going to try to get some content out here while my voice is still present. You may actually hear that I sound a little nasally here, so I appreciate you liking the videos, commenting below, and appreciating the content here. Of course, we're going to take a look at the backend data. Obviously, make sure we understand a little bit more specifically about these key levels. We're going to jump right in here, make it easy for you. We got 94.5s at current resistance, of course, with a significant sell order block there for the order blocks. And when it comes to volume is starting to taper off, and we're starting to work ourselves into a type of rising wedge pattern. These are generally construed as bearish. You could also argue this is a bear type of flag pattern, which is probably a little more correct. But the concept here is that we're losing steam as we work our way into the descending trend, which is still a macro descending trend line, basically letting us know that we haven't broken bullish yet. Right? Even if we get above that, we're not going to be like, hey, we're going to the metaphorical moon. We're in a position right now where it's just it's interesting nonetheless. Anyways, we're going to take a look quickly here at some dominance factors here, specifically Ethereum dominance looking pretty strong. And then obviously just look at some local liquidation levels. So be sure to stick around. We got a good one today. Let's take a look. All right, folks, before we jump into the back liquidation data, just got a quick update for our community, specifically our Bitunix traders. There's a $50,000 USDT prize pool live today. It basically includes an iPhone as well. So really good stuff. Be sure just to do what you normally do, of course. Don't want to incentivize you to trade more, but there's some really good rewards there available. So I'll be consistently updating you on that and the progress there. Furthermore, too, December sale is still up and live. We got 21 slots available out of 25. That is the 25 days of Christmas sale. So basically, each day somebody's snagging up a new membership there. So congrats and welcome aboard too. We've got a lot of new community members. So just make sure you read through my signals guide and some important stuff in our Discord or Telegram, just to make sure you stay abreast. Now, speaking of staying abreast here, we do once again have this bearish type of flag pattern here, working itself into a slightly higher, lower high pattern, but also more importantly, a descending trend rejection. At least tentatively for now, we're starting to hit that level. Now we'll talk about that here in a minute, but just to touch on liquidation here, this has shifted just a small bit, but you can kind of see there's a pretty large sell order at 94,500 and close by here too as well. Really tight and compressed in this range, telling us we got a lot of buying and selling pressure here because we're retesting a resistance, but also trying to pull back to that fair value gap. It's an interesting little dynamic. I still feel we're going to pull back. And the reason why I feel that way, it's because open interest is run fairly flat, and we see low volume here overall in the last few days of trading. So generally speaking, that's not really a strong sign here for this little push or continuation higher. We need to see this kind of volume flowing in to actually have it sustainable. Wouldn't say that's like the only barometer, but it definitely helps to understand that that's the case. We can also recognize too here that Bitcoin dominance is coming back down, and Ethereum dominance is increasing. So ETH is doing quite well, a lot better than I expected once it broke through that $3,000 invalidation range. It just continued higher, and I do really think 3,400 is probably the next target for that coin. We'll take a closer look at that here soon just to be safe, but the concept remains the same with stablecoin dominance kind of running sideways in this 10 to 11% range. Altcoins are not going to be surging anytime soon. We need to kind of see that pulling back down lower, and at this point it's not. So that just kind of lets us know that altcoins, while they're doing well compared to Bitcoin, kind of like 1.5x or consistent with it, there's no like significant outliers except for Ethereum. But you got to keep in mind, Ethereum is a strong front runner in most cases for quote unquote alt season, right? Just because it historically has done that doesn't mean it's going to moving forward. But generally speaking, if ETH does well, then altcoins tend to follow, mainly because there's a lot of trading pairs in that same network, but there's also a few other factors too. Taking a look here at the last 24 hours of liquidation, there's still a chunk of liquidation down as low as 91.5. So I wouldn't be surprised we do see that here soon. We're right on the edge of that anyways. Last 7 days worth of liquidation, we can see there's more to the downside than the upside. So it does incentivize the price to pull back because market makers are going to secure that profit from everybody pumping up the price throughout the week. Because while they started it, they're probably not fueling the fire when it gets to this rejection or this resistance level. There's a reason why that $93,000 range is so heavily contested, because whales see that as a profitable margin for them because they're in longs between from 85 to 90,000, right? So it just makes sense for the price to pull back. Good news here though is on the larger time frame, 30-day time frame, we're seeing liquidation pile up on both sides. Generally speaking, when the macro starts to see liquidation on both ranges, there's a good chance the price will progress higher based on the fact that we have this lower time frame, higher low pattern. We'll talk more about that too. The last thing I want to just quickly highlight here is for the Bitcoin backend data, and just recognize 92,000 is that tentative support for us. I think if we close below that today, it would be indicative that we're going lower. If we stay and continue above that level, we may actually continue to progress higher. As a matter of fact, I do have a tentative chart here pulled up. I sent this playout chart on my Twitter, Telegram, and Discord earlier, and this is just kind of the concept here. The price were to pull back, we may see it bounce off of this point of control and continue to range in this area. This is once again that 91.5 to 93,000 range. If we end up losing 92,000 today, I think probably a distinct probability we're going to go a bit lower here and see this these lower fib levels, or more specifically, this fair value gap get filled. So when we take a look at the liquidation, though, this is kind of contradictory in a sense, right? We've got a tremendous amount of resistance above us, but also a ton of liquidation above, and liquidation delta is still bullish. So it's inherently more risky to consider shorting this level, right? Just because Bitcoin has shown a lot of strength here recently, with more interest in liquidation, or more importantly, more interest in leverage rather, which leads to liquidation, and it kind of just lets us know that we're there. But the thing that I see here is I see 2.5, almost 3 days worth of overextension, and that we're hitting a plateau. It's rare for the prices to go shooting straight up from here, but once more, we're kind of in a bullish type of flag pattern on the very low time frames too. We're starting to squeeze and compress. So weird things happen when we get this compression type of scenarios. Either way, on the left-hand side, you see here this last 7 days worth of liquidation, just kind of giving us indication that we're in a position where 94,000 to 95's potential next area, and then same thing as well with 90 to 91,000 roughly. There's just less of it down below. But if we do zoom in a little bit and we look last 3 days, I'm willing to guess there's more close by here to the downside, just based on the simple fact that these are like late longs essentially in the last 3 days. They're the ones that are probably going to be hit first. So I think we're still due to continue a bit lower there, just based on some of that back end stuff with the overextensions. So those are kind of my thoughts there. Quickly to note on the daily time frame, let's recognize this here and just understand once more, we got a bearish type of flag pattern here. While it's not a reason to take a trade, it's just kind of showing that there is weakness here in breaking this descending trend. Obviously, the descending trend line is subjective in a lot of ways, but we are under the that's the 50-day SMA and the 200. Those are just kind of averages letting us know that we haven't broken bullish yet. Generally speaking, you want to be at least over the 50 to see that. Okay, so try not to get too ahead of yourselves. If we have another good couple of days, the odds of just shooting through 100K is pretty low. There's got to be some kind of fundamental catalyst for that, or just in general, a massive short squeeze, which we're not there yet. We don't have enough volume to reflect that. Money flow index is above the RSI, so that's a good favorable sign. But generally speaking, the daily time frame, you're kind of reaching for straws if you're trying to think that we've broken bullish, right? That's the concept. 4-hour time frame, moderately bullish on the lower time frame, there's no doubt. This does look decent, but once more, we've already identified in the back end that these lower areas, these fair value gaps, this liquidation below the price, and this capitulation we're starting to see with some moving averages and stochastics specifically, kind of letting us know that we are due to correct ourselves for a short while, right? So how that treats altcoins for the moment, I think they'll pull back with Bitcoin. They may not 2x Bitcoin just yet, but if we continue to progress lower more aggressively, then that will probably happen. So be careful, I would say, trading any coin to the upside so far here today. See if the support levels hold first. And specifically, is 92K going to support Bitcoin? That's what we're looking for. All right, those are my thoughts. What are yours? Comment below. Quick heads up to our traders. We got a 15% discount on trading fees if you use my link to register through Bitunix. Links down below in the description. All right, folks, take a quick look here at Ethereum, just kind of see what's going on really quick with the backend data. I want to start with a comparison first with Bitcoin and just kind of reflect on the simple fact that Ethereum's doing quite strong right now. It's outperforming versus Bitcoin. Its dominance factor is super high right now, so we can kind of see once more performing very, very well versus altcoins. Altcoins are running flat, and ETH is absorbing all that market capitalization. So it's generally a good sign for quote-unquote alt season. I don't want you to get too excited here, though, because it's still very early and premature, but generally speaking, ETH will front-run a lot of altcoins before alts start to kind of progress higher. And right now, they are looking like they're pretty strong overall, but once more, Bitcoin's pulling back. Alts are doing the same thing right now, so it's not like it's an amazing situation by any stretch, okay? So all that said, really just depends on how Bitcoin performs at the end of this week. I think that's a pretty indicative sign here, specifically the weekly closing in that 90+ K range, right? So all that said, here's what's going on for Ethereum. Ethereum chart right now If we look at the 4-hour time frame, we're still below all moving averages minus a 20-day SMA, right? So it's positive, it's a good shift in momentum, but there is a fair value gap below the price that's right there, really close to 3,000. So I'd be interested at this point with our volume, point of control, and previous high range hasn't been tested as a new low, and that fair value gap to consider along at 3,000. That seems like a very logical consideration right now. So if we do get lucky and see the 2,800 to 3,000 range for Ethereum, I'm going to lean definitely more towards along at that point. I feel it's a bit overextended right now to want to take a long. That's just me personally. I don't like to chase, so that's just kind of what my thoughts are there. But let's take a quick look at the back end and kind of see if what the data really tells us. So open interest, ton of open interest between 30, 50, and 3,000. So that's a good area to consider dollar cost averaging. Liquidation delta is quite high here. It's not while it's overextended, it's still progressing higher, where Bitcoin's been plateaued for 2.5 days. So I feel still that Bitcoin's going to pull back. ETH should with it by a small margin, but it probably won't be a significant correction. I don't think ETH's going to do that, just based on the simple fact that its dominance is high right now. It's absorbed a lot of market capitalization, therefore a sustainability in the current price point. We look at the liquidation. This last 3 days liquidation. So if you kind of zoom in, you can see there's way more to the upside than the downside. So these late shorts at 3,300, 3,250, or at least those who have liquidation events or stop losses in that area, they're going to be the ones that are going to be very sorry here soon, at least potentially. What I mean by that is that this coin, among very few others, is doing really well versus Bitcoin. So if Bitcoin were to surge to just say 94, 95,000, ETH is going to rocket to 3,400 to sweep majority of that liquidation. Excuse me. Working on a cold here. I do apologize for my voice here. Last but not least here, just looking at the lower timeframes for Ethereum, just to kind of clarify, there are overextensions here. We're seeing a plateau at roughly 3210. That's that local high here. So once more, based on that metric alone, 3,000 seems like a very logical pivot point for the price action to work itself down and to progress higher once more, based on that point of control and that previous high range, that previous high closure range on the daily time frame at 3,000. So I'm interested in a long at 3,000. Between now and then, shorting that level is just inherently more risky. I wouldn't necessarily recommend it on Ethereum for the moment, even though it is more likely to pull back. It's not something I would recommend, just based on the fact that it's the odds of success to the downside are lower on this coin versus other coins. That's kind of the concept. So wait for a long or consider a short at a higher level. That's kind of where we're at. We're in a transition. Sometimes not always the best time to trade. All right, those are my thoughts. What are yours? Comment below. Friendly reminder to our traders, we got a 15% trading discount using my link below to register for Bitunix. You'll also automatically be eligible for future trading competitions through this exchange. It's an excellent exchange. There is no KYC required. Be sure to use my link down below to register. All right, folks, take a quick look here at Solana, and I want to start off with the reasons why we shorted this coin at 143. We'll just go ahead and discuss that really quick, kind of before we jump into the back-end data, the things that I saw that are pretty indicative here. First of all, it's this definitive range, right? 144, 145, super significant resistance here for us. We are in a range-bound scenario until that range breaks. You have to presume it will continue. That's basically the premise. There's also a lot of motivating factors with fair value gap below the price. There's also, of course, some lower time frame divergences too. We can see here on the 4 hours specifically that we topped out at roughly 70 on the RSI, money flow index pulling back, stochastic RSI. It's just kind of that natural ebb and flow that we're seeing. It's also consistent with the fact that Bitcoin is showing early signs of reversal here, or at least more likelihood of reversing and pulling back to that 90, 91K range. So a lot of those things kind of compounding together. Anyways, taking a quick look here at the back-end data too as well. Kind of recognizing here where we're at. Solana is looking quite strong, and it's running consistent with Bitcoin though to the downside. You look at the last 24 hours, roughly, this is the hourly time frame. We can see some consistency here with this pullback. All right, it's pulling back consistent with it. And you probably be like, wait a minute, no, look how great it did. Better than Bitcoin. Yeah, that's true. A lot of coins were kind of surging at that point, but it's still holding below its resistance range. It's not really moving past that level. And there's a lot of confluence of that range too, not just with previous retests, but also with some open interest starting to accumulate at that level. There was a liquidation event here, or there's a small amount of liquidation at that level left remaining. This is a very low time frame, by the way, but if I recall correctly, on the larger time frames, there is some liquidation more so below the price than above, right? And that does incentivize the price to continue lower. Once more, there's small pockets above, but generally speaking, there's less incentive for the whales to try to sweep those late shorts. And now, right now, they're trying to destroy those late longs, which is basically just how they make their money. Simple as that. But liquidation delta It is bullish, right? But it's also overextended too. Bitcoin's reflecting the same thing. We got 2.5 days worth of overextension on liquidation, basically just telling us that there's too many longs in one direction. Okay, and at this point here, that shift, that dynamic has to happen because this resistance level hasn't broken yet. We've given it time. We've tried for the last 2 or 3 days to wait, or more so, I've reflected on our videos previously saying that you want to be patient and wait for this level to break before you consider longs, and that hasn't happened yet. So what do? You consider shorting those levels. Once more, you don't have to short, of course, and it is inherently more risky to short right now with this lower time frame convergence. A lot of coins are looking strong, consistent with Bitcoin, but Bitcoin is printing a bearish type of flag here, and I really do think that we're more likely to pull back unless we continue to maintain a range of 92K or higher. But this bearish flag here, folks, that's pretty indicative that we're going to be going down at least to this halfway point. Typically, bullish or bearish flags, no matter whichever one they are, you're still going to see this halfway point retested. So if it becomes bullish, we're going to be bouncing off 90,000 going higher. If it becomes bearish, we're going to close below this level, retest bearishly, and continue lower. We're looking for that. It hasn't happened yet, though. We're still a little ways away. So those are my thoughts. What are yours? Why don't you comment below? Thanks again for being a phenomenal part of my life. Look forward to working with you in the future. Have a great rest of your day. Take care.